Felting machine tip number 3. Never again throw away any scrap fabrics, no matter how small. With the felting machine, your scraps can be your next embellishment. Natural fibers and fabrics, like woolen fabric and yarns or roving, work wonderfully with the felting machine and mesh readily. Add synthetic fibers and fabrics like lame or metallic yarns to add amazing and beautiful enhancements. Depending on your taste and your project, you can use combinations of materials to create the look you desire. As you can imagine, the possibilities for color and texture when using the felting machine are endless. Now let's explore the technique for using the felting machine. Place your embellishments on top of your base. Now lower the needle unit into your fabric. This will allow you to better control the placement of your materials and ensure that the needles can enter the fabric freely. We recommend using this technique each time you start the machine to avoid needle breakage. Now press the foot control, being sure to start slowly and work up to a faster speed. Again, this lessens the risk of needle breakage and allows for better control of the materials. Like free motion stitching on the sewing machine, simply move the fabric freely under the needles, front to back, side to side, or in a random or circular motion to create any look or design you wish. Be sure to gently move the materials, never pulling or forcing them under the needles. Felting machine tip number 4. Remember, the further down you depress the foot pedal, the faster your machine will move. Lightly depress the foot pedal and practice only moving the fabric when the needle exits the fabric. As you become more proficient with freehand felting, you will be able to increase your speed. Moving the fabric too fast can cause unnecessary needle breakage. Continue to add as many fibers and accent fabrics as desired. Look at the amazing and beautiful results. Though the technique for working with the felting machine is exceptionally easy, you'll find that you can fine-tune your technique to achieve different effects. The amount of needle punching you do will affect the final look of your project. You can needle punch or felt your accent fibers and fabrics as much or as little as you like. Wool fabrics and fibers are traditionally used in the art of felting because of their ability to mesh so completely without coming apart. The amount of felting you do will determine the loft of the upper materials. A small amount of needle punching or felting will result in a loftier look, and the upper material will not be as embedded in the lower. Extensive felting will greatly reduce the loft and mesh the fibers together as one piece. You can control the felting according to the project. If you are felting something that may be washed or worn, you'll want to go over your upper materials quite a bit to ensure that they are firmly embedded in the base. A wall hanging or other decorative project will not require as much felting. Also keep in mind there is no right or wrong side after you have used the felting machine. The top generally shows the materials you have embedded very well, while the bottom has a subtle coloration. Experiment with this effect. You'll be pleased with the results. Other tips and techniques. We talked briefly about what types of materials work well with the felting machine. Now let's really get to understand some of the great products you can use. First, we'll review good materials for bases for your projects. Probably the most popular material used as a base with the felting machine is felt. Felt comes in wool and polyester blends. The substance of the felt you choose will depend on the result you're hoping to achieve. Wool felt is especially accepting of other fibers and will act as a very forgiving base to your creations. Polyester felt is somewhat less accepting because it does not stretch as readily, but makes a very sturdy base. Felt is a wonderful material because there are so many colors and textures available today. This would be an ideal base for a project where the color of the base will show through when it is finished. If you are working on a project in which you will cover the surface entirely, you may choose to felt on a neutral color canvas. You can start with canvas, embed various materials and textures, and then use the resulting creation as a new piece of fabric. Denim is always a great base because it is heavy, sturdy, and readily available. You can even use your felting machine to decorate ready-to-wear jackets and shirts. A collar is often a good place to showcase some extra embellishment. You may want to use the felting machine to create 3D embellishments or standalone objects. For this, you can use a stabilizer or stiff interfacing as a base. You can also use interfacing to create whole pieces of cloth that can be incorporated into other creations. The felting machine is also a great tool for working with woolen knits or decorator fabrics. Before working on something that has value, be sure to use a test sample with the felting machine to see how your substances react. The materials you can use for embedding are limitless. One popular substance is wool roving. Roving is wool that has not been spun into yarn or thread. It is very light and wispy and can be pulled apart like a cotton ball. You can use roving to add flashes of color into your projects, or use it with interfacing to make a standalone project. You may also choose to use various ribbon and yarns when working with the felting machine. The sky's the limit with these enhancements, but consider the properties of each fiber when choosing them for your project. Fibers that have more texture and loft are going to embed more readily than those that fray into compact materials. For instance, the loft of frayed woolen yarn is far wispier than that of gold lame. The yarn will embed more readily than the lame. This does not discount the lame from your project, however. You may consider combining machine stippling into projects with materials that don't embed as readily. You may also choose to cover your creation with a fine mesh to encapsulate your fibers. We found that some fibers need some tacking down before you start the actual embedding process. To do this, you can just lightly tack the yarns or fibers before starting to go over them in a more diligent fashion. You may also find a hand needle felting tool handy for this process. Once you get the hang of the machine, you'll find it much easier to manipulate various fibers, but at first you may find them unwieldy. As in anything, the more you use and experiment with your new felting machine, the more ideas will reveal themselves.